Miss Clerk here. Natasha, is Miss Bodner coming back? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the pension meeting will start here momentarily as soon as Ms. Bonner comes back. All right, Madam Clerk, we're going to be calling this pension meeting order.
Yes, sir. Our first item would be a presentation of the second quarter ending June 30th, 2025 investment reports for the 1945-49 pension plans, along with the July 2025 update. Ms. Siegler.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me. Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Excellent, it worked. Okay, we're gonna go through that second quarter data. It does seem like it's been a long time ago, but we've had a lot happen, but that's just the way it works in the market. So if you look at through the end of the June 30th timeframe, if you look here on the page I presented for you, you can see the S&P 500 for the quarter was up 10.9%. We had the mid-cap stocks up 8.5%, and then your small cap stocks, again, right at 8.5%. When we think about the second quarter overall, really delivered strong equity performance, but through most major indices. That was really provided by the corporate earnings that we've seen. They've been very, very resilient, especially in the technology sector, which you can see was the best performing asset class in the quarter, up 23.7%. And then also really the investor optimism that we saw surrounding the potential Federal Reserve cuts later this year, which we think could come actually tomorrow. And so while the economic data is presented really kind of a mixed picture, we're showing a little softening in the consumer indicators and business investment. So we're watching that closely, but markets really focused in the quarter on the positive signals that we saw around inflation up through June, and then some of the easing geopolitical situations that we had seen as well. Think about the international markets overall, the developed international, which is the MSCI EFA index for the quarter, up 11.77%, and then on the year-to-date, up 19%. If you go over a little bit more further, we don't normally talk about this. If you look at it from local currency, you can see that in the quarter, if you owned it, the international indices in their individual currencies, the developed markets were only up 5%. And so that's because of the weakness we've seen in the dollar. So if you did currency and translate that back to dollars, it was a better overall performance for you. Actually, the dollar through the second quarter was down about 7%. And so we've seen continued degradation of that since the end of the June timeframe. On the international and the emerging markets, you can see just below, up 12% for the quarter and then 15.5% for the year to date. So international markets through June had outperformed our domestic markets so far. We look at the fixed income market. So if you look at the Bloomberg Aggregate Index for the quarter, up 1.2%, and for the year to date, up just over 4%. That's because we did, even though the Fed has not reduced interest rates, we have seen the overall open market has had interest rates come down a little bit. And so you can see that in the performance. So as those numbers have come down, it's really started to affect the aggregate index, and we're seeing some positive numbers there, more so than we had seen in quite some time. So that's been very nice. Through the quarter, the Fed did hold interest rates in that 4.25% to 4.5% range. We are expecting a cut. I mentioned that on tomorrow when the Fed meets. There's been a lot of debate on whether that will be a 25 basis point cut or a 50 basis point cut. If they do the 50 basis point cut, we expect the language to move more towards going back to that data dependency. And so we're just really more so, instead of watching what the cut is, we're looking for the tenor and what the mood of the Fed is going forward, so it gives us a better idea. If we take a look at the 1949 plan through the end of the quarter, you can see we started the year to date at just over $77,800,000. We transferred out right at $3.6 million to pay benefits, and we had investment gain through the quarter right at $5.4 million, which brought us just over to $79,600,000. If you look at the bottom on the left hand of the chart, you can see the breakdown. We had domestic equities of just at 59% and international at 15%, bringing us total to 74% equities, and then fixed income of 23% in the quarter. We always keep some cash on hand because we are transferring out an average about $613,000 a month for your pension benefits. We look at the managers that we had through the quarter. Your large cap value manager, positive 0.32%, and for the fiscal year, 0.22%. They've struggled a little bit this year, and so we don't have any immediate concerns, but we are watching them. We have your large cap core manager up 15.4 for the quarter and right at 7% for the fiscal, ahead of their benchmarks. MDT, our kind of quantitative go anywhere manager, for all cap in the domestic, up 13.4 for the quarter and 10.8 for the fiscal, ahead of their benchmarks for both time frames. We have look at Lazard, this on the international side, but they're more on the developed value side of the international market. And so that was actually up 10.45 in the quarter, and for the fiscal 12.7. Value has not done as well as growth. Same thing we saw in the domestic markets. Growth has outperformed value, same in the international. And so you have Thornburg, which is your more growth manager, up 12.2% for the quarter and up 24 for the fiscal year. The growth has really helped them for the first half of the year. Then we have your fixed income manager, PIMCO, up right at 1.5 on the quarter and 4.7 for the fiscal year, ahead of their benchmark for both time frames. So that brings us through the June 30th time frame with the cash that we have on hand for the quarter, up a net of 8.15%, and then a fiscal year to date of 7.24%. I do have an update for you through July. And so through the end of July, we were up 8.3%, and then I could not help myself because I know the market's done well since then, so I want to tell you where we are through last night. And so we're actually up 12.4% since for the year to date so far through last night. So that was too good to keep to myself. So we've popped back over $82 million in asset value as well, which has been very nice. Any questions on the 49 plan before I move to the 45 plan? All right. So if you'll see here, we have the 45 plan, obviously a smaller plan. We had started the fiscal year at $5,472,000, transferred out right at $175,000 for benefits, investment gain of $264,000, which brought us to just over $5.56 million. We don't have international assets here because that's not allowed since it's a small plan. So we only have domestic equities, and we have a maximum limitation there, so we're below that as well. So at 48.5% and 40.6% in fixed income. Keep a higher degree of cash here. It looks like a higher percentage, but we are transferring out right at $72,000 a month. And so we make sure we're keeping sufficient cash there for that as well. So similar to the domestic managers, we have NFJ. I'll just give you the fiscal since you've heard the quarter on this, up 0.47% on the fiscal. At Atlanta, large cap core up 6.9. Your all cap core manager up 10.8. Your fixed income at 4.7, which brings the total return with the cash that we have on hand to, 5.37% for the quarter, and then for the fiscal year, 5.18. Then through July, we're up 6.2%. And I wanted to see where we were on this plan as well, and we're up 9.6% through last night on this plan. And we've actually topped back over almost 5,650,000. So a nice gain that we've seen since the end of July. Are there any questions for me on the market overall or the 45 plan?
Ms. Heather, as far as the amount of former employees, how many do we have in each of the 45, 49? Because the 45, it should be just be a handful.
Yeah, it is. And so the numbers that we have from the last valuation were the January of 25 numbers that I have. And so, January of 24. And so on the 45 plan, we had no active participants in that plan. And we had 14 retirees and disabled persons that are still collecting benefits. On the 49 plan, where do I with that one? Gotta find my paper. We do still have active participants in the 49 plan. I don't seem to have the number with me.
No problem. If you would, next time you do a presentation.
Take 1 second, I might have it in my bag. I don't like having answers for you. I have it.
Awesome.
Okay. On the 49 plan, we had 7 active participants. We have 174 retirees and disabled. We have 5 that are deferred but vested employees, so a total of 186 participants.
Okay.
There are no other questions, and that concludes my presentation.
Good. I have one more question for you.
Please.
All right, this was brought up to me a couple weeks ago that we need to be prepared, as well as y'all do, is that the fire department, we have a lot of fire department that's going to be retiring, but we have a lot that actually works overtime. So there's going to be, they making 100 plus a year. All right, when they go to retire and we bring in the new employees, something's got to fill the balance, because we're going to be putting out money for the retired firemen. It's probably as well as with the police department or sheriff's department. And we bring in people leaving at buck and a quarter, and then we bring in somebody in at 45 to 50. We ain't going to be able to sustain the pensions. How are we going to plan for that?
Well, your actuary actually does plan for that. And so they plan for an average number of retirements per year, and they're looking at overall, they take a pool of plans.
Right.
Lots of plans, and they look at what the average retirement is on an annual basis. And so they factor that in. So they're expecting a certain number of retirements, and they're also expecting a number of people to come in that are newer. So that's why we have an actuarial assumption of a rate of return that's meant to be able to sustain that for the longer period of time. So they're factoring that in. It's a lot of calculations that go into that valuation, and when they come next, they should be able to tell you how many they're looking at from a retirement standpoint and how many they're looking at new employees coming in. And so if we're going to be above or beyond that, then they can adjust those calculations, but they're looking at over a longer term, an average.
All right, so the actuary will actually pre-plan and go ahead and set money aside for that instance.
That's right.
Good, all right. I definitely appreciate that answer. And, you know, I know the firemen and the sheriff's department does too, because we got to make sure that they taking care of us as long as they took care of us.
Absolutely, I agree.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Siegler? None. We thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Any actions from the attorney or anything like that? I think that concludes. Yeah, if we can. Can I get a, give this information?
So moved.
Second.
From Ms. Turnhill Barnley and Finance Chair, Ms. Pulliam.
Yeah.
All right, let's vote on it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, can we get everybody ready? Tell me more about it. Huh? Oh, yeah, GMA. 2, 4, 6, 7. Good. Coming out here to give you this. All right, Miss Bonner. You call Wayne when you need to call.
How are you? This was last week, and I didn't see you in two. I didn't see you in a couple.
We haven't. He was out.
Week before last, then you. Yeah, that was some songs.
All right, Ms. Bonner, we got a quorum. Let's go ahead and call this meeting in order.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Our invocation today will be shared with us by Reverend Paul Robinson, pastor of the Windsor Spring Baptist Church, after which we'd like to ask Commissioner Don Clark if he would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Amen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, the Bible tells us in Jeremiah 29:11, for we know the plans that the Lord has for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us, and plans to give us a future and a hope. And Father, we pray today for these commissioners, and Lord, we pray for a spirit of cooperation between these elected leaders. And Lord, we pray that you'll provide these commissioners with wise and godly counselors. And Father, surround them with people who will give them honest wisdom and encouragement where needed. And Father, we pray that for those that are married, that Father, we'll pray that you'll protect their marriages, and those that have families up here, these commissioners pray that you'll protect their families. Because Father, there's so much temptation, so much things that go on in this world. So we pray for a hedge of protection around them, Father. And Lord, we pray for the city of Augusta. We pray that you'll continue to grow our city economically. Father, we pray for expansion in areas, and we pray, Father, that most importantly, that you'll grow our city spiritually. And Father, may we sense a spiritual health in this city like never before. And so, Father, as these leaders make decisions, as these commissioners make decisions day in and day out, Father, may they know that they can rely upon you and look to you for strength and guidance. And we pray all this in the name of our Savior, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reverend Robertson, yes, thank you. I've got a little something for you. It's always a delight to have you come and pray for us over our house. We would like to express our thankfulness for you who felt it not troublesome to come and pray on our behalf. And thank you for reminding us that God knows the plans that he has for us. Right. And it's not to harm us, but to do good. Amen. Thank you. By these presents be it known that Reverend Paul Robinson, pastor of the Windsor Spring Baptist Church, is our chaplain of the day. May your spiritual guidance and spiritual leadership serve as a continued example for all citizens of Augusta. Given my hand the 16th day of September, 2025, Garnett L. Johnson, Amen. Mayor. Thank you so very much.
All right, Madam Clerk, we got some addendums.
Yes, sir.
Can we put it up on the screen to where the people at home watching could see it as well?
Yes, sir.
And
And I would read those out. Item 1 is to receive as information the financial health update presentation from Augusta's financial advisor, Davenport and Company. 2 is to approve a request for structural repairs to the Marshall substation located at 3050 Deansbridge Road in the amount of $34,000 by LEP Contracting LLC. Item number 3 is Augusta Regional Airport Amendment to NetJet Services Lease Agreement. 4 is the Augusta Regional Southeastern Phase 1 ROA and contract. Item 5, Augusta Regional Drainage Ditch Enclosure Phase 2 construction contract, Reeves Construction in the amount of $5,285,234. Item number 6 is a request to approve the appointment of Ms. Carolyn D. Henry, excuse me, to the Augusta Port Authority representing District 5.
thank you. Does anybody have an objection to adding this to the agenda? There's none noted. Let's add it. All right, Madam Clerk, let's start off with delegation, then we'll get to the consent and poll items.
Yes, sir. Okay. Our first delegation, item A, Mr. Moses Todd from Citizens City-Owned Cemeteries Committee on the agenda to discuss the cemetery's operations and capital budget 2026.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, Commissioners, my name is Moses Todd, 2747 Deansbridge Road, Augusta, Georgia, 30906. To give you a brief history of why I'm Cemetery Committee Chair, it's a non-government appointed committee that took the task of doing the bicentennial for Magnolia Cemetery and Cedar Groves. And Commissioner Jerry Brigham had some issues and needed someone to step in and take his place as chair. So I've been chair since 2018. I first want to commend the administrator and the warden, Joseph, for their efforts in Magnolia and Cedar Groves. I was there Friday a week ago, and there was at least 3 or 4 details in Cedar Groves and the appearance of Magnolia that it had been cut within the week and a half. So I want to commend them for that, but we have room for improvement. And I'd like to invite Ms. Deere up, which is a friend of Magnolia's and have family there. So we've been working since 2018 on initiatives to improve the situation in the city-owned cemeteries. Most of the committee serve on other or run other nonprofits, and usually is not available to advocate for budget or funding. But with the talk about possibly eliminating RCCI, and I don't know where you're at on that, that I think that we need to come up with a budget for the city-owned cemeteries. And that budget could be spent through RCCI or through the private sector if we decide to go that route and something do happen as far as RCCI go, that they're not in existence in the future. I would also like to suggest that we take the capital outlay in special purpose local option sales tax 8 and implement a plan to do some repairs. I know it's hard to get folks to take a $300,000 contract. That's a small contract, but there should be small businesses out there in the business of repairing roads and other items in the cemeteries that would take, if you take them and bid them out, all 3 cemeteries, that's a total of $900,000. And we'd like to see some action there. We understand that the Designation Augusta is handling the $2.5 million May Park and Magnolia Cedar Groves walking trail. I would urge the commission to go heavily on the cemeteries with those funds because we can do things as far as May Park go out of special purpose local option sales tax, which we don't have the option to do if we're doing maintenance in the cemeteries. And lastly, I'd like to request that you consider a memorandum of understanding with the cemetery committee, recreation department, administrator's office for authorization to raise private funds to do repairs on the gates in Magnolia and do the wrought iron fence that we've talked about in front of Cedar Groves. This would work like any other memorandum of understanding. All checks would be made out to the city of Augusta and the funds would be designated to that project. Ms. Deere, I don't know how much time we got.
You got 1 minute left, exactly.
Thomasine Deere, 117 Kings Chapel Court. I would just like to say that Magnolia is a jewel in Augusta. I was just in Savannah. As we all know, Bonaventure. They make a lot of money in there by having tours, having a golf cart to carry people around that they charge about $38, and having picnic tables that people go in and have lunches. And I just think that Magnolia has just been really let go to the point of, it's sad. I spent about 2 hours down there. My cousin who's here with me, we just going through and looking at the monuments there, and it's amazing what we have here. But nothing's been done, nothing gets done, and I think that it's time that we take a look at what can be done down there to bring people in. I know my in-laws met and had their first date in Magnolia Cemetery at the reviewing stand over there. And so I have probably 50 some odd family members.
Okay.
I'm just asking to please take a look at Magnolia.
All right. Madam Administrator, I know you listened to the conversation. Ms. Deere and Mr. Todd had spoke, and can we try to make sure that we focus on that? I know that we got the Splash coming up. If we could kind of utilize the capital outlay from Splash 8, what former Commissioner Moses Todd was speaking of, try to get the, make sure that the families that comes out there are taken care of.
Yes, sir. I just spoke with Mr. Todd a few minutes ago, and we can actually look at what he's proposing and bring back a recommendation to the governing body.
Okay, and as well as the MOU would, so they could try to capture some money. All right, thank you. Anybody have any questions for either? Catherine Smith Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I do want to emphasize that we do need to, after hearing you speak and knowing that we've talked about the cemeteries that need to be taken care of that are in despair, they're looking a little bit better, but they could look a whole heck of a lot better. And I have relatives too at Magnolia Cemetery, and it's a beautiful cemetery as well as the other two that we have here. But we've got to do a better job, and whatever we can do to support former Commissioner Moses Todd and get this where we can make these cemeteries look better for the citizens of this town. Thank you.
Thank you. And we got Super 9 Commissioner, Ms. Francine Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would just like to commend former Commissioner Todd for your advocacy with the cemeteries. And I know we said Magnolia, but we have several others. So while we're in Magnolia, we make sure we are looking at Cedar Grove and the other ones as well. Thank you.
The other one is Westview, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And yes, we are looking at all of them. Westview is a little easier to keep up than the others.
Thank you, Ms. Todd, and thank you for taking the chair since 2018, the last 7 years, sir. Anybody have any other questions, or none? Thank you, Mr. Todd.
Okay. Our next delegation, Mr. Frank Howard, regarding the status of improvement of the improvement project for Diamond Lakes Regional Park.
Good afternoon. Frank G. Howard, 4401 TJ Kelly Drive. And because of the delay of the improvement for the park, there are some consequences that arise. And because I have become the face of the improvement part, I have some people come up and want to address the commissioners.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Clifton Holloman. I'm from 5117 Joe Weatherly Lane over in Manchester. My concern is I ride my bike twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. And I note that when people come through the parks, I know you got speed humps there, but it look like it's put there to be like a where they do daredevil tricks because they try to clear that hump there. And I've seen also burnouts. People have come awfully close to me. Couldn't get their tag number because some of them had these smoke-colored covers over their license plates. And I spoke to an officer about it. He said there wasn't nothing he could do because it falls under the Fourth Amendment, searches and seizures. And I said, well, you know, someone needs to do something about it because not only that, but we have young children out there playing ball and also people are walking, you know, along that street there. And I just feel that they need to lower the speed limit because the speed limit out there started at 25, and then at some point it goes down to 20. And I believe it needs to be lowered down to 15, even 10 miles per hour. That would be better because there's no sorrow that can cover you hitting someone's child or hitting someone and taking their life out there in the park. That's all I have to say about it.
I appreciate you coming for us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your name and address for the record, please.
Mary Jackson, 2416 Ramblewood Drive, and that's in Augusta, Georgia.
Thank you.
I and my husband, we walk daily in Diamond Lakes. It's we've been out there now about between 9 and 10 years. We are avid walkers. When we first started walking out there, the park was grand. You know, the park was manicured. It was fully kept. A lot of individuals seemed to be working out there, and the park was wonderful. However, it has gone downhill. And I put to you today, not asking for anything other than support in something that we would like to orchestrate for the park. That is our park. That is our community. We like a clean park. We like, we have children that we would like to bring to the park. At this point, the park is not ready to receive guests like that. Based on the status of the equipment, it's just not ready. And like I say, I'm not here today to ask for anything. I didn't bring a bag of tricks or anything that I can pull out to show you that we can do this. I'm here asking for support and recommendations for things that we have come up with to maybe aid in getting the park up to par. I think at this point, we need volunteers out of the community. Yes, sir. You had a question?
No, ma'am. You got 1 minute.
We just, I would like to recommend that we come up with a committee of some sort to where we can gather the people that use the park, that want to use the park, to come together to clean and take care of our park.
That's a good suggestion, very good suggestion, and you don't expect the government to have to do it, and I appreciate that. Mr. Howard, since you are the one on the agenda, and you have been very vocal on getting Diamond Lakes turned around and taking care of the needs as far as the safety, the quality of life issues out there, can you head this up and work hand in hand with our rec department and what we could do to help as well?
Yes, sir, I could do that. Be very glad to do it.
Attorney Plunkett, in order to have I don't think it's considered neighborhood association because you in Manchester and they not from the same neighborhood. So how can we move forward on this the proper way?
We'll get with Director Williams and come up with a plan about how to organize basically a community cleanup or I'm using cleanup very loosely, but how to get volunteers to take care of that. That shouldn't be a big issue. We obviously have done that with River and things of that nature, so we'll just model that.
No different than the marshals, the judicial, as well as the mayor doing the cleanup as well. But can I get two of you together, Mr.
Yes.
Williams, if you'd like to speak?
Yes, we do already have a waiver in place, and we have various communities that do monthly and bi-monthly cleanup, so I can get with Mr. Howard and we can set that up and we come out and bring the bags, pickers, and gloves out and have staff out to assist with whatever days you do that.
Wonderful.
But that works, Mr. Howard. We also got Ms. Tanya Barnhill Turnley from District 4. Would like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I like the idea of community involvement, but for me, let's be clear. Community involvement is not a substitute for people doing their job. I was out there yesterday afternoon with Mr. Howard, and overall, if you look at it, just a cursory view, the park looks great. But when you delve down into it, not so much. I know some of this is regular maintenance, and it doesn't look like regular maintenance has been done. I don't think private citizens substitute people doing their job, and it looks like people are not doing their job. Is there a maintenance plan in place, not just for Diamond Lakes, for some of these other parks? I saw where the grass was cut, but it was just laid there, so all of that is now dead. There's trash and debris in that creek. There were boxes in there that I guess food boxes or whatever, cans and stuff. To me, that's regular maintenance that somebody is not doing their job. So can you address that?
Yes, and not to make excuses, Commissioner, but to state the number of parks we have and the number of staff we have. We have a total of 57 maintenance staff, and only 52 of those are full-time people. And they're trying to cover the various parks. We still hold to have to do janitorial maintenance in our facilities as well. We have to do ball field maintenance. And let me remind the commission that we don't have skilled maintenance workers. So any fixes or repairs, we have to take those things through central services, or we either have to contract the work out.
Yes. I don't mean to be argumentative, but I don't think it takes a special skill to have a broom and a dustpan to sweep up leaves. That is not a higher level skill. No offense to anyone who does that.
Right, yes, and as I stated, I'm not making excuses for that. I'm saying that we do have short staff and we work with what we're given and we try to do what we can. I've been here 4 years now. I'll tell you that our turnover is crazy. We get staff in. I also have to get staff out there and get them trained to the areas and knowing what to do.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jacks. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, ma'am. As an action item of this meeting, I will meet with Director Williams and Deputy Williams to make sure that we address your concerns.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Howard, does that answer some of your questions? Because we were out there a long time yesterday.
Yes, we were. But the main question is, what is the target date for the sidewalks, lights, speed bumps?
That's going to be, I'm going to ask the engineer to come up on that, Mr. Howard.
So let me make sure, because we talked about, so basically what you and I talked about yesterday and what I am looking for is some kind of timeline. I understand that a lot of these improvements have been approved, but I haven't seen anything look like it has been started. So what I'm looking for is a timeline. I know you can't snap your fingers on Monday and Tuesday, everything is done. I get that. But a lot of these things happen before I even got here, and I see nothing happen. So I'm looking for some kind of realistic timeline as to what we can expect to see something happening at Diamond Lakes.
Absolutely. We'll give you a weekly update as a result of your concerns.
Honestly, weekly is not necessary. I just need something realistic. It can be every 2 weeks, but weekly is too much, to be quite honest. That doesn't give people time enough to do what needs to be done. If I could have a monthly update, something, it doesn't even have to be, it just needs to be something realistic that we can hold your feet to the fire and they can hold our feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
Because it's just languishing at this point.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. We got District 3, Catherine Smith Bryce, and then we'll have the administrator following up. Or Madam Administrator, you need to say something first?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Williams, is he prepared to give an update on where we currently are with the request that was approved?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay, can he proceed with doing that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Currently, we're scheduled and slated to start the install with one of our on-call vendors of the benches around the walking track within the next 2 weeks. I've met with and talked with the procurement director earlier today and Director Williams, and we have talked with on-call contractors, and within the next 3 to 4 weeks, once we've completed the procurement process, we will have on-call vendors beginning to work on the sidewalks as well as the pavilion. And the final phase of that project will be the speed humps.
All right, Mr. Williams, will you be kind enough to reach out to the engineering department, see if we can lower the speed limit in that area as well?
Yes, sir.
That's one of the safety issues. That's first and foremost. Are you finished, Mr. Williams? Yes. Okay. I will tell you this on behalf of Mr. Williams. Commissioner Brandon Garrett and myself had met him a year ago out there at Lock It Down before Helene hit, and we showed him all the issues. Within a couple weeks to 3 weeks, everything looked better. He had really focused on it, so he is doing his job with the best of his ability. I will have to say that. We got Catherine Smith McKnight, District 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And I need to stay focused on Diamond Lakes because that's what we're here to talk about. But there again, we talked about this last week. We hear that we don't have enough staff to take care of our parks. That's why I hate to sound like the bad person here saying, but that is why we need to eliminate a few of these parks around here so that we have enough staff to take care of the ones that are the main ones like the Diamond Lakes, and I can name a few other big parks, but some of these little parks that we have our staff going to take care of need to be over at the main ones where there's complaints. Like I said, some of them look like a field, a vacant lot field. So taking into consideration this, and I hear what y'all are saying.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to follow up in this conversation, Ms. Tanya Barnhill.
Just to clarify, thank you. Just to clarify a couple of things. Okay, you said the benches within 2 weeks, so we're looking by October 3rd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They're being put together as we speak. I have some staff that are working on the weekends that start this past weekend, started putting them together because they've came in, and then we'll place them over with our own call for install into the various areas throughout the walking track.
Okay, great. And you said the other items, once it goes to procurement, it's another 3 or 4 weeks.
Looking at
so
about 3
how
to 4
long?
weeks scheduling with the contractors to start the sidewalk install at Diamond Lakes as well as the pavilion.
So if I'm, just make sure I'm understanding for my own clarification. How long is this procurement process going to happen? How long does that whole process take?
That will be a matter of once Director Williams is back, and she's back on Monday, we'll get those requisitions drawn up for her signature, and she'll get those over to get approval.
Okay, once she gets back and y'all get, can you send me that timeline, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, with that
You
gives
got to
us
go
at
through the
least,
chair, please.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Howard, if you'd like to do your closing remarks.
Yes. I understand that you're saying that we're going to put the benches around the walking track, but the request was to put the benches next to the sidewalks. So when people walking through the park, not on the around the track itself. I understand what you're saying, but it might have been a misunderstanding for that. But
Mr. Howard, when you actually do meet with Mr. Williams and Mr. Jackson, y'all could go over that as far as the placement. That'll probably resolve it. That way y'all could actually pinpoint where you want the benches at.
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, thank you for coming. Any other questions? Any other? None. Mr. Howard, thank you, and your group coming.
All right. Thank y'all for listening.
All right, Madam Clerk, I guess we're going to go to the consent
Okay.
agenda.
Yes, sir. Our consent agenda consists of items 1 through 10, items 1 through 10. For the benefit of any objectors to our planning petition or our alcohol petitions, would you please signify your objection by raising your hand once the petition is read? Call your attention to item number 1. It's a request for a rezoning from a Zone A agriculture to a Zone R3A multiple family residential affecting property located at 2223 Sullivan Road. Are there any objectors?
None noted, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Item number 2 is a request for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with the location at 2059 Central Avenue. Are there any objectors?
None noted.
Item number 3 is a request for consumption on premise liquor, beer, and wine and Sunday sales for a location at 830 Broad Street. Are there any objectors?
None noted, Madam Clerk.
Item number 4 is for an incidental on premise beer and wine for a location at 210 Hudson Trace. Are there any objectors?
None noted.
Item number 5 is a request for consumption on premise liquor, beer, and wine and Sunday sales for a location at 3105 Washington Road. Are there any objectors?
None noted, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the commission, our consent agenda is items 1 through 10 with no objections to our planning petition or alcohol petitions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, anything that y'all want to add to the consent from an agenda item from 11 to 26 or 27? Madam Clerk, can we just get ahead of this ball game? We have somebody that has to get out and go to Statesboro. Can we go ahead and address agenda item number 11? Ms. Pulliam had asked for that to be expedited because.
Item number 11 is to receive an update on the revitalization plan for the Turpin Hill area in connection with the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, GIC, as well as approve the revitalization plan for the Turpin Hill area in connection with the Georgia Initiative Community Housing Plan.
All right, who we have to speak on this? State your name and address.
Good
Good afternoon. My name is Douglas Freeman, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the Augusta Housing Authority.
All right.
I appreciate, excuse me, I appreciate y'all hearing me today. So, excuse me, I'm sorry. Today we're asking for this body to approve and adopt the revitalization plan for the Turpin Hill area. This plan, if you recall, is one of the goals that the GIC team set at the beginning of their process. And while developing this plan, we involved as many stakeholders as we could to help us put this plan together. And I'd like to list some of those stakeholders now. Some of those include the mayor, several of the commissioners, the Turpin Hill Neighborhood Association, several residents that live in Turpin Hill, additional residents of Richmond County, the Augusta Housing Authority, the Richmond County Board of Education, the Economic Development Authority, the Land Bank, Georgia District 129 representative, the GIC team, the Planning and Development Department of Augusta, the Housing and Community Development of Augusta, the City Administrator's Office, as well as the Transit Department of Augusta. So when putting together this plan, this group of stakeholders set some goals for this revitalization plan. This plan included, or these goals included, encouraging development of quality mixed income housing, preserving and maintaining the historic single-family homes, retaining legacy homeowners in the area, attracting new investment, residents, and businesses to the area, improving community infrastructure, and preserving and promoting the rich history of the community. So today we're asking you to adopt this plan, and I'd like to just mention that this plan does not obligate the city to complete, approve, or financially contribute to any of these goals without going through the normal approval process that the city has for any project.
All right, we got Commissioner from the second, Ms. Pulliam.
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you again for coming before us for the Housing Authority. And Mayor Pro Tem, if it's not out of order, we have several individuals in the audience that are in support of the plan. Is it okay if I ask them to please stand?
Absolutely. Whoever's
Thank
in
you.
support, please stand. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. This means a great deal to the Turpin Hill community. We've been working on this for about 1.5 years now. And so those meetings, thank you all so much for sticking them out. And this just gets us one step closer to our final goal, which is to restore Turpin Hill and the surrounding areas to their former glory, and I'm going to say even make it greater and better than it was before, because our greater days are still ahead of us. So thank you so much.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revitalization plan for the Turpin Hill area.
Second.
And we got a motion from Ms. Pulliam. Who seconded it? Ms. Rice? All right.
Ms. Scott.
Ms. Scott? Sorry. All right, anybody have any discussions? We got Commissioner Don Clark, District 5. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Hey, Mr. Freeman, clarify to me, I know we're saying approve, and we're saying that the city doesn't have any direct monetary responsibility in this. What does approve this revitalization plan mean, and what are the follow-on steps? I know I had asked once before if you could clarify the process. I'm not on the GIC committee, so I'm not as informed. So if you could clarify that for me.
Yeah, so what we're asking you to approve is the adoption of the plan. So like any other revitalization plan that has come before this body, as well as your master plans and your different communities and different areas of the city, it's kind of a blueprint for what the city would like to see happen in that area. So when a developer is coming in or when an organization wants to do something in that area, they can refer to these plans to make sure that it fits what we want in the area. And by we, I mean Richmond County, the residents in the area, the commissioners on the board, all of us. And so that's what adopting or approving this plan is. As far as next steps, this is one of the goals of the GIC team. The other goal is, or some of the other goals are to actually implement some of these items on here. From the Augusta Housing Authority standpoint, Our goal is to work towards the redevelopment of Dogwood Terrace, and that is one of the items that was in this plan, was revitalizing specifically our property there. So that would be our next step, is to work on that demolition and development of Dogwood Terrace.
Mr. Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem, can I proceed?
Absolutely.
And that's great because, number one, I think the area is looking for a boost of revitalization, a boost of growth, and more importantly, just a growth perspective throughout the area. Outside of the, and again, I apologize, maybe I'm a little outside of understanding, but we're saying that we're approving something, but I don't have anything in front of me to reference one way or the other outside of the presentation that we saw. And we're saying that we're just approving for you all to keep going forward with the plans.
My understanding was y'all are all provided a copy of the revitalization plan.
Okay. All right. So I'll follow up with my hundreds of emails and try to find the plan. So we're approving what was in email.
Well, we came before this body before and presented to you on the screens, and I can do that again today. I've got it with me if I need to.
Yeah, I'm just asking for clarity. We've already had conversation about approving something without really having clear understanding of it. I don't want us to be a kink in your process if we don't clearly understand what we're approving, what part we play in the process, and then, of course, the benefit that the constituents are going to receive as well going forward. Because I've talked to some of them, and they're greatly looking forward to seeing what's going to come out of this, but they want to know and understand just as much as we do. So the one thing I'm asking for clarity on is just make sure that we understand, us and the public understands what's happening in the process. I don't want it to be, because this is something that some of these residents have depended upon and look forward to for many, many years. And I hope I'm quoting you all appropriately. You want to make sure that whatever we're talking about, whatever we're voting for, and whatever we're going to move with is something relevant, is something that you all understand, and something that you can depend upon with the growth of this area. Did I quote that correctly? Okay, so that's why I'm asking for clarity, just so that they can have just as much clarity as the public and the residents as we are with approving anything in this process moving forward. I hope I made that clear without coming across as I was badgering the process or otherwise.
I believe so, yes, sir.
All right, Commissioner Clark, you done? All right, we got legal counsel that's chiming in. Blanket.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I may address Mr. Clark's kind of statements and concerns. The plan, I've read the plan, I've talked to their counsel, and by the way, Housing Authority, I believe, is to pass this on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, at their meeting. This is kind of almost a second step to the Laney Walker Bethlehem plan. That plan was maybe a little bit more detailed. The current plan we're looking at is somewhat aspirational, and it recognizes that there is some need potentially to change some zoning issues. I believe last time there was discussion of a stormwater park and things like that. And so what the idea is, this is, as I said, aspirational, but an idea plan. These are things to next steps. And when we create plans of this nature, we oftentimes need projects to implement it, and the Dogwood Terrace is one of those projects. It's the first one, a fairly large tract of land and a fairly needed tract of land to be done. So what you're doing is, it's not that you are binding Augusta to a action forever. You know, we have had multiple downtown redevelopment plans that have come and gone and things like that. But this is a way for future developers who may want to implement or get involved in that area, similar to, and I'm not paralleling too much, I apologize if I am, the Laney Walker, but that's been a successful redevelopment idea. It's like, here's a way to work in Turpin Hill and do those. But there are no, I read the plan earlier over the weekend, there are no obligations, as Mr. Humphreys is saying, is there's nothing, I mean, Mr. Freeman, that there's no financial obligation. There is some recognition that possibly we may need to look at zoning and things of that nature if we wanted to do multifamily or duplexes and things like that. So it's really just can we bring housing to this area? At the same, not displacing current residents. Oftentimes that's a concern. I'm not going to use the word gentrification, but sometimes it's phrased, are we going to displace people or run people out because of housing cost? And there's a discussion about a plan for something like a tax, I want to say it's like a tax freeze for existing people. But the idea is that it's just creativity to get someone building stuff in that neighborhood. So I understand you may be concerned about not having read it, but from a legal standpoint, we are very comfortable with the plan.
Again, I appreciate it. Thanks for the clarity. Okay, thanks.
All right, we got District 8 Commissioner Brandon Garrett.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think this may be a little easier to move forward. If I can ask the Commissioner from the second question, please.
Absolutely.
Could we add the word concept after plan? That way, in some people's minds, the word plan means something concrete, like that is what is going to happen. But I know that this is just a planning phase. A lot of this was the same questions that I had back when we heard this the first time as well. But I think that what we're looking at is a concept to revitalize an area, which is Turpin Hill. And so I think that if we could just add it, let this read, receive an update on the revitalization plan concept for Turpin Hill. I think that may be the better way to move this forward.
Would the maker of the motion like to modify her to add concept to it?
I may respond, Mayor Pro Tem.
Absolutely, Ms. Pulliam.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman, is that going to in any way hinder anything to add the word concept after the word plan?
I don't believe so. That's the whole idea behind this concept plan.
All right, thank you so much. And so, yes, I'm fine with that. So if we could reword that, update my motion to say approve the revitalization plan concept for the Turpin Hill area in connection to GIC. Ms. Bonner.
All right. We got a motion from Ms. Pulliam, second by Ms. Scott. Let's go ahead and vote. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem. Look for the mayor. Okay.
He's not.
That motion carries with the mayor out.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Now can we get to the consent and POLA side of the agenda? All right. Anybody want to consent agenda items as well as we'll do the addendum secondary. All right. Ms. Scott, Francine.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Wayne. When it's the appropriate time, I would like to pull number 12 and send it back to full commission.
Okay.
Okay. All right, District 1, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to consent items 13 through 24.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Anybody for the Turpin Hill, if the residents, if you want to leave, y'all are more than welcome to leave. Or if you want to stay and watch the show, you're more than welcome to.
The show, when you talk.
If we, colleagues, give them a minute to leave.
Watch the show.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir, Mr.
while we do
Johnson.
that, may I have a point of privilege?
Absolutely.
I'd just like to recognize State Representative Carlton Howard, who's in the gallery, who's in the room today. Just wanted to show respect where respect is due, as well as former State Representative Sheila Clark Nelson.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If Mr. Howard and Ms. Nelson, if you would stand, at least stand, let us give you a little applause. Thank you for your continued service as well as your service. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, we got Ms. Catherine Smith Rice.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'd like to consent item number 26.
Okay.
I got a question about 26.
All right. All right. Mr. Clark, you want to add or take away?
That was what I wanted.
Okay. Commissioner Brandon Garrett.
I'd like to consent item 27, please.
All right.
And also make a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
You want to consider some on your addendum?
Yeah. We got the addendum, ladies and gentlemen.
We
1 through 6.
1 through 6.
What would y'all like to do?
Through 6.
Commissioner Johnson, you have the floor.
Thank you. 2 through 6. Consent 2 through 6.
You're offering those for consent, sir?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Addendum item.
And I'll repeat my motion to approve.
Thank you.
All right, and we got Ms. Rice as second.
I just wanted to say I wanted to make sure we consented items 3, 4, and 5.
Yes, ma'am. He recommended 2 through 6. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to reiterate.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Let's vote.
That motion carries 9-1. With Mr. Okay.
I hit the wrong button. It's a yes.
It's a yes? Okay.
It's a yes.
Before I called your name, no.
Yes.
So you're good. It's unanimous.
All right. All right, let's start off at the top.
Okay. What do we have left?
Regular agenda. Thank you, Commissioner.
Let's see, that was 11, 12, 25. Item 25, follow update on TIF-funded Broad Street Improvement Project Design Assessment to explore additional street parking feasibility for business quarters segment.
All right, Mr. Ushery.
Yes, sir. Just give me a sec.
No problem. Mr. Ushery, while you're doing this, I would like to say thank you for the years that you have given Augusta Richmond County as a service working with us. And we're going to hate to see you go, and I know Dr. Malik is going to hate to see you go as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'm here today to give you an update on the last month or so of our continuing to looking at the parking on Broad Street and how we can expand the parking and try to lessen the impact on some of the businesses along this corridor. So without further ado, I'll get started. So the first slide here is just to show that we have received a letter of support, actually in favor of the current design of the Broad Street project. This letter happens to be from the Downtown Development Authority, but it's also signed by Destination Augusta and the Chamber of Commerce. So, we're grateful for that, and we're working hard to try to improve this and make it as best as it possibly can be. The next slide also shows that the current design of the Broad Street project falls in line with the MPO mobility goals that have been set by the local MPO and the planning department.
Mr. Ushery, I don't mean to interrupt you. Is there any way that you could expand that? Because I'm wearing glasses, so I can't even see it.
Okay. Well, the first two slides, I didn't make it so they were readable.
It worked.
It did.
I can provide those documents if you need them. I was just trying to show that they were there. So if you want to see the actual letter and whatnot, we have those. The purpose was to just try to show that we are receiving some positive feedback regarding this design and some of the decisions that have been made in the past regarding this project. Let's see. Okay. This is a view of 6th Street to 5th Street on Broad Street as it exists today. You can see Luigi's there. That's one of the staples of this part of Broad Street. And so this is what it looks like currently. These renderings were done for us by our engineer. I want to preface these. They're just visual aids to help show pretty close to what the project will look like after it's completed. I want to stress, though, that these are not to scale. So, if the sidewalk seems really, really wide or the road seems really narrow or whatnot, this is just a visual aid to try to get into everybody's mind what it will look like when it's done, but it's not to scale. So keep that in mind. This is just an exhibit to try to help people visualize what it will look like after it's completed. So anyway, this is 6th to 5th, and the bike lane here is shown in a different color. Don't know why. It's actually part of the sidewalk, so it's just an extension of the sidewalk, which is something that has caused confusion in the past. But as you see it here, it is sort of outlined in a different color, so you can see approximately how it will work in relation to some of the other traffic facilities. Again, this is Broad Street, 12th to 11th. This is what it looks like today. This is the concept of what it will look like, or close to an approximation of what it will look like after the improvements are completed. You can see that, at least in this concept, there's angled parking in the middle, and there is parallel parking on the side, which is something I'll discuss again in a minute. I included this in our town hall meeting that we had with the administrator and several commissioners at Mr. Brad Ussery's location when we did that meeting that evening. But I didn't include it in the last commission presentation, so I thought it was important to emphasize this again. There's been, again, a lot of questions about bike lanes and parking and why is it there and why does it need to be there. And just very simply, and I can go over this point by point if you want, but very simply, the Georgia Department of Transportation in 2012 changed their policies, and their policy is to require accommodations for pedestrian, bicycle, and transit modes of transportation on state and federally funded projects. Again, I think most of you know this is a TIA project, so it's state money, oversight by GDOT. So that's why a lot of these improvements were suggested at the beginning, and through the entire design process, we got a lot of feedback that it would be a benefit to have these included, so it was never suggested that we take them out. And we continued through the entire process into construction with all of these transit elements, these transportation modes included in the final design. let's do it now. Since we last met, we have gone back and looked at the parking again. So the first time we came before you, and I have a slide at the end to sort of summarize all of this. But before the first time we came before you, the approved design had 490 parking spaces, and we had looked at reducing the amount of green space and some of the planters and those types of things. And we had achieved just under 600 parking spaces along the project. We went back a second time at the request of the business owners and the commission, and we have added an additional 35 spaces, so we're up to 625. I know a lot of people say we're losing 150 spaces. Again, I have a slide at the end that sort of explains that, but that's not necessarily the case, because the parking spaces along Broad Street today are too narrow and too short. So there may be 760 striped spaces, but that's not how it functions. So if you were to go down there at any time during any period, there's a good percentage of those parking spaces that are not usable because somebody in a larger vehicle has parked in one or over the line or whatever, or they just won't feel comfortable pulling in them, so they just don't use them. And so we've increased it additional 35 spaces to 625. That's in the 500 block, the picture I showed earlier where Luigi's is, and several other restaurants in there. So the majority of the parking that we've been able to add, in addition to our first go around, has been in that 500 block. So this is the current design for the 11th to 12th Street block, and the 1,000 block, the 1,100 block, and the 1,200 block, all very similar, so I didn't include them all, but this is the 11th to 12th Street. You can see that there's angled parking in the middle. We've drastically reduced the amount of green space and median islands in the middle, and added in quite a bit of parking back into the middle of the roadway, much like it is today. You can see on the outside we still have parallel parking. I know I'll get questions about this, but I'll try to address it the best I can right now. The business owners did request that we look at angle parking on the outside of the street. We did that. Matter of fact, one business owner went as far as to provide, they hired a local firm to take a look at it, and they provided a drawing, and I even got the actual AutoCAD drafting file from them. I went down personally to our engineering consultant in Atlanta, and I sat with them most of the day, and we did our best to try to make it fit. At the end of the day, the amount of parking that was gained was not anywhere close to what that drawing suggested could be there. I don't really go into too many details, but they didn't draw it per standard. We've talked a lot about that. So the drawing indicated that we could add another 100 or 150 spaces. That was not the case once it was drawn in according to the state standards. And so that number was drastically reduced. So there was a little bit of benefit and a lot of cost. And the decision, we decided to move forward with parallel parking on the outside instead of angled parking. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about that if you have any after the presentation.
So as far as the drawing, are you finished your presentation?
No, I have several more slides, but if you have a question,
absolutely.
I can
Okay.
answer. Okay. So again, on the 500 block, that's this next slide is showing the 500 block. How we were able to add additional parking on this block was there originally was planned a planter on the outside of the street in front of Luigi's, in front of the sports bar, and the museum on the other side. Without too much cost and without a lot of redesign work, that planter was able to be removed, and we put in parallel parking along the 500 block. So this again, this slide here will show you that we've, let's see, there it is. This, well, there it is. And so, also, we were able, so in front of Luigi's, there will now be, instead of a planter and green space, we've added back in parallel parking. On the other side of the block, not the Luigi side, but the other side near Fifth Street, there was enough room, again, without too many modifications to the existing design, to add in angle parking on that half of the block. So you can see from this exhibit that there's angle parking on both sides of the street. Broad Street is not a consistent width. So one question may be asked is, how come it fit here, but it didn't fit in the 1200 block? Well, Broad Street is not a consistent width. So one of the goals of this project is to try to standardize it as best as we can. But in this block, Broad Street is a bit wider. And so we were able to fit it in on this end where we were not able to fit it in on the other end. This is another design that we are considering. If you look at the sort of the right side of the exhibit here, you can see that the street, it is Monument Street. So there's 6th Street, and then Monument Street, and then 5th Street. So one idea that we had is GDOT has this apparatus called an R-cut, which is what's shown on this drawing. And what that would do is that would eliminate the left turns off of Monument Street onto Broad. So right now, it's just this big empty void. I mean, if you go out there today and you're on Monument Street, you can turn left, you can turn right, you can do whatever you want. This concept here would add an additional few parking spaces, but the cost would be, when you're on Monument Street, you would be forced to turn right. So you can always go down to 5th and make a U-turn. But this is another design element that we are considering including to, again, increase the parking spaces beyond what was originally proposed.
How many parking spaces?
So that'll give you, I believe it's 5 or 6. They're not all shown on here, but I believe it's 5 or 6 additional parking spaces if we go with this concept.
Thank you.
Dr. Malik and I did go out and take a look at 12th Street. Most of you know that 12th Street is a one-way street from Green to Reynolds, basically to help you expedite you getting into the cyber center that's on Reynolds, the end of Reynolds. And so this gives you some information on 12th Street. It's a single-lane, one-way road. It has a small daily volume of about 1,200 cars per day. That's pretty light in the traffic world. And so it is also wide enough to install angle parking on 12th Street because it's a one-way street. So we don't have to have the 2 aisles and all the necessary room to back in and out. You know, a lot of that's reduced because it's one way. So and right now 12th Street does have some parallel parking spaces, not a whole lot, but there's a few on there. But if we redid 12th Street, we keep it a one-way street, but we install angle parking, we could add a total of 30 parking spaces, add 30 parking spaces for a total of 45 parking stalls in total between Green and Reynolds. So we would add in another 30 parking stalls along that portion of Reynolds Street, or 12th Street, I'm sorry. So this is what it looks like today, and you can see that over on the left side, you know, there's some cars parked, but they're all parallel parking stalls, and we have this sort of wide piece of asphalt that we could install angle parking. The original plan was to potentially install a bike lane on 12th Street to sort of tie it all together, but there's other methods we can use to tie together the bike lanes. And this would increase the available parking on this side of Broad Street. This is a picture of 11th Street. So they're both one-way streets, just they're in different directions. So this is exactly what it would look like if we did angle parking on 12th. This is, again, what it would look like. This is another picture of 11th Street, but it would look very similar to that. We've discussed this before, but I'll just recap it real quick. Currently, Reynolds Street's a 4-lane road. Average volume is about 7,000 vehicles per day. Again, in the grand scheme of things in traffic, that's fairly light. We can make it a 2-lane road and install parking along where the outside lanes are now. If implemented, we would gain approximately 400 parking stalls along the length of Reynolds. That's 5th to 12th. So this is just something we've shown before, but this gives you an idea of what it would look like. Ellis Street, we've discussed this also. If implemented, if we turn Ellis into a one-way roadway, Ellis is classified as just like any other street, any other two-way street, but it acts more like an alley. That's where the garbage bins are and those types of things. It's the back of most of the buildings. So from a traffic point of view, it doesn't really behave like a normal road would. But if we made it one way, we would have a total of 330 parking stalls, and that would be a 90 stall gain above what is there today. So again, here's some concepts of what that would look like. So this is the summary that I was talking about earlier. So the current number of substandard parking stalls is 760. They're too narrow, too short. I think I've gone over that multiple times. So that's the number that are striped, but that's not a functional number. If we were to go through and do nothing but restripe the parking to standard, we would have approximately 620. The initial design had 430. After both sets of revisions, we're proposing 625, which is actually more than we would have if we just did nothing but go out and restripe Broad Street, the parking on Broad Street. If we install angle parking on 12th, you would have plus 30. If we do it on Reynolds, you'll have plus 400. And if we do it on Ellis, you have plus 90. Management, and this is something I'd like to emphasize. I know we've talked about it, but it doesn't get a lot of traction. We can add or take away parking, but until we manage it, it's not going to really solve the problem. It needs to be managed. Every city of our size in the state of Georgia that has a downtown that's similar to ours has managed parking, whether that's timed parking, whether that's metered parking. Every city has it except for us. So this is something that I definitely think needs to happen in conjunction with whatever the final design is, and it needs to happen shortly after the improvements are done. In my opinion, the communication plan. This was another area of contention that you all wanted us to look at. So we've recently procured the services of an experienced PR communication firm. I've said before, engineers, communication is not always our forte. There's a reason why we became engineers. And so we definitely wanted to hire somebody that was better at it than we have been. So we hired a firm that came highly rated from several local groups, including the Chamber of Commerce. They've worked in our area before, so they have a familiarity with Augusta. They've worked on large-scale construction projects, so they know what sort of information is important to get out and when it's important to get it out. And so we've been working with them for several weeks to get them up to speed, and they're just about ready. I think they've already sent out some information already because we gave them access to our website and a few other things. So they're ready to pretty much take over and start blasting out all the information that they can. After they get familiar with the process and the projects, Dr. Malik is going to hold a stakeholder meeting to go over this with the community and with the business owners. And that's the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Absolutely. Mr. John, pull up your third page where it shows between 5th and 6th as it is at the current standing, please.
This one?
Now, the way the parking is done right here, how come we can't leave this street here alone, and just put in new asphalt, new lights, et cetera? Just a question. I've asked this numerous times before.
So I'll go back to the design elements that are required for a complete street.
Right.
And so if we just left this alone the way you see it there,
yes, sir,
it doesn't meet those requirements.
As far as the width and the depth of the parking spaces?
Those, ADA compliance around obstacles, bike lanes, everything's a package. Everything goes together. And so you can even see it on this photo. If you look at the lower right-hand corner, there's some sort of concrete curb that's that's just on the very edge of the picture.
Right.
That currently that doesn't meet ADA compliance to get around it.
But the medium in the middle, where it shows where it has the ADA ramp, I imagine it would if the picture was turned a little bit to the right, would it not have a ramp there for wheelchair access?
Yeah, so all the ADA requirements will still be met after this project is complete, and they should be enhanced above what you see here.
Okay, so as far as what would it take for us, I know it's not in compliance, what will it take for us to basically leave that block like it is and make it ADA compliant or GDOT compliant, et cetera? Is that a possibility, is what I'm asking. Uh-oh.
Good afternoon. So,
Good afternoon.
Yeah, it's a continuity of the project. So we started from 15th Street really all the way to East Boundary, and project needs to continue. It is a transitional block from commercial to residential, all the things. With the proposed changes, we more or less coming very close to what's there as far as the parking, and that was the primary concern. But some of this is the only opportunity, I guess, that has to upgrade and aesthetically all of the things. If we don't do that, it's not going to look the way it's supposed to look in downtown and all that. And then the same people are going to be coming and complaining why we are different in the look compared to others, I mean, I get that question, frequently, and I've really balanced it out to make sure I'm balancing that. So I strongly believe that engineering did the homework, we did a good job to address the primary concern that was really parking on that. So leaving the way it is, really, not going to gain anything, which we have opportunity to really improve.
Right, Dr. Malik, I wasn't, I'm saying, leave the parking the way it is, but do the upgrades as far as street lights, the ADA accessibility, the asphalt. It'll flow without having the bicycle in there. So in other words, right there at that red light, you're going to be taking a left if you're going to go to the Freedom Bridge on the bicycle.
So we have bicycle lanes in all the projects, so it's a connectivity. Fifth Street has, then the East Boundary, that will have it, so just not having in the middle. And also, mobility is one of the key push from the state, from our own MPO. That's what John showed in the second slide. That's what their mobility plan, and a lot of citizens, they want a mobility, especially the young generation. If really we want to attract, that generation to come and either stay or work in Augusta, we have to give them the things they are looking for after work, or biking, riding, jogging in a safe way.
All right, I'm going to just hold my questions for right now. I got some people in the queue. We got Commissioner Stacy Pulliam, and then we'll have Commissioner Brandon Garrett following. Ms. Pulliam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Great presentation. A lot of work has gone into this. My question is, for the with the proposed spaces, is it in step with the forecasted growth of the city? So population-wise, when we're 5-10 years from now and Augusta is growing, is this still going to offer us enough spaces? But even if it's not, is it hard or difficult to alter the spaces? Like, is there room for add-ons?
So, yeah, it should accommodate growth. One thing that I had in my other presentations that I didn't include this is there are other close by places to park, several parking decks that are very underutilized. On a normal day, you walk in there, the city's deck that's at Reynolds and 9th, which is near the middle of Broad Street, near the heart of downtown. It's about 20% utilized, so there's a lot of room for growth built into what's already there. Also, there has been some discussions, and I don't know how much detail you want me to go into this, but there's been some discussions with buying some of the buildings that are dilapidated, turning them into parking lots. One is, actually I should have the drawing. Where is it at? It's 12th and Broad, right across the street from the farmhouse. You know, if that comes to fruition, you could easily add 150 to 200 parking spaces, depending on the size of the lot and how it's laid out and stuff. So I think there's definitely accommodations for future growth. And again, if it ever becomes impacted, I think the management is more of the key than the total number of spaces.
Also, so when you said that, I immediately thought about when we go to much larger cities, how a lot of times people will have their own parking spaces that they charge people to park in, things like that. So you're
There's already
saying,
one here. There's one at Ellis,
okay,
on Ellis Street.
All right, so there's
where
room
there's a
for
private
that.
parking lot. You can pay, I forget what it is, but you scan the code and you pay to park in there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. We got Commissioner Brandon Garrett.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Do you mind if I ask them questions?
Oh, absolutely.
John, on, I think it was slide 23.
Which slide?
23.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So if I'm doing my math correctly here, your additional parking that you found, which brought us from 430 to 625 on Broad, and then the other options that you were talking about, do we have enough in the scope of the project cost-wise to implement that?
So in the middle, we're fourth bullet with the revised Broad 625, that will add around 35 parking. So yes, sir, yeah, we can make some changes. If we require changes, the design is not a simple fix, definitely, but we can accommodate the current estimate.
Well, the question was in regards to the 12th Reynolds and Ellis. Do we have?
Right. So the 12 is, we have to add that is basically, we're gonna restripe all those things. It's not in the project, but it should be minor cost. So technically, we were not able to do at the block of 11 to 12 on the Broad, but this is really offset, it's right there, and that's what really we went back and looked at hard what we can do. So these two, yes, it can be done. The 12th gonna be under the routine operation and maintenance, what we do on that. The rental Alice is a supplement to the contract, which this body already approved actually $310,000 just to come up with a concept. So that's in progress.
Well, and even with all the construction taking place on Broad Street, could we not go ahead and do the 12th Street part of this just to add the additional 30 spaces? I mean, I know we're affecting far more than that each day with all the disruptions. So if we could get that restriped now, I think that would kind of at least give folks an option of where to park and help some of those businesses on that upper side as the disruptions are taking place.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So exactly, that's what the plan is. We were waiting on this today to have that conversation.
All right. So I have another question, and thank you for that. The second question that I have is, which way would Ellis flow if we made it one way? Will it flow towards East Boundary or the other way?
So you already have a one-way street in Jones that goes from west to east, or, goes towards Old Town. So usually when you do one-way streets, you want to do them in pairs.
I just didn't know which one you were going to use for your offsetting.
So, in my opinion, because Jones goes west to east, I would have Ellis go east to west.
Okay. No, I just wanted to clarify that one as well. And so I saw your little snippet in there about the amount of parking that gets taken up by ride share. I mean, I see it. I get my hair cut on the upper side of Broad, and I see the same cars there every time that I go there. And I used to work on Broad Street and saw it as well. On just an estimate, how many cars that are parked on that upper end of Broad are folks that are ride sharing out to SRS?
I've never really counted them. I would say it's a good percentage. Because when I was preparing the first version of this presentation a couple months ago, I went out there a couple mornings and just sat there, and I watched them all park and line up. I watched them get in a van, and I watched them all drive away.
Right.
So I would say it's a good number. I mean, I definitely think that if we could manage the parking, that would eliminate a lot of that. You'd be surprised about how many additional parkings are there for patrons of the businesses.
Yep. All right. Thank you both for this update and just for working through and finding some additional spaces, especially in Broad. I think it's pretty interesting knowing that the spaces that are currently there don't meet the standard. I know I find it hard most days to park my truck on Broad Street, so without taking up 1.5 spaces. So I get what you're saying.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Garrett. We got Commissioner District 1, Jordan Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Definitely echo some of the sentiments of Commissioner Garrett about how difficult it is to drive down Broad during peak hours of the day. If you're coming down between the 10th and 11th block or anywhere past, and you're on the left lane, you're in the left and right lane. You're basically in the middle of the street because of the cars parking in the median, how they come out into the street. So
yeah, you really only have one true lane today. You have the middle lane, which is 12 feet. The outside lanes range from 6 to 8, depending on what block it's in.
It's a big issue there, big issue. And that leads to my question about the requirements that if any project has state or federal funds, it should accommodate ADA, bicycles, and the upgrades that you're speaking of. What would happen as a result of Augusta not doing that? If we didn't if we didn't make those required changes, what would happen from on Augusta's part?
Well, you'd lose you have a chance to lose.
Yeah, so first thing is, is a trio. That's what we presented when the project was developed. But secondly, if we don't do that, as these requirements coming up new and new, at some point, they're going to require Augusta to do certain things. I don't know how many of you are aware of right now, like 88 requirements. They are actually in place, and Augusta has a plan, like doing certain numbers in a year, says over a year, because they were audit done. So Augusta spent a lot of money to come up with that plan, and is it more like over I don't know how many years to comply. So yes, at some point, some of these things going to become a requirement, especially this is a greater push about this mobility where, we have to make a room for everybody.
So basically you would have a set amount of time to come into compliance, or you could potentially lose funding.
Yes, sir, yeah.
Okay. Pay it back. Or pay it back. And that would amount to the full number of the project or a percentage of it? Or do we know that right now, or is it just we would be on the hook for some sort of repayment? Okay, all right. Reynolds Street, 400 additional parking spaces on Reynolds Street sounds really good. I think it's a great idea. However, I've received some concerns about the increase of traffic with 400 additional parking spaces on Reynolds. Do you foresee that being an issue, getting people in and out of downtown with 400 new spaces and the road coming down to 2 lanes versus 4?
My best answer to that is a 2-lane road that behaves in an average manner, can handle between, well, GDOT says it can take 18,000 vehicles per day. I think that number's too high. My number would probably be 12 to 13. So right now it's half of that. So even with those 400 spaces, even if you doubled the amount of traffic on it, those 2 lanes should still be able to accommodate that increased volume of traffic.
Okay. And as far as the managed parking goes, will we have to find an outside agency to do that, or is that something we can manage in-house?
So in a past version of this commission, they've tried to tackle this issue. They brought in an outside consultant. He presented a plan. It was not approved. But my suggestion would be go through a procurement process, get an RFQ, get a qualified firm in here who does this for what they do, and have them present you all a plan that they can work through to do the implement the managed parking.
And are we talking paid parking, or we're just talking timed parking to wherever?
Whatever you all want. It varies. So in Savannah, obviously, you have to pay everywhere you park. If you go to the other side of the state, they have 2-hour parking signs everywhere. So it just depends on what this body would like to do and how they want to manage it.
Could those funds go into some type of fund or program to be able to support downtown maintenance? And
that was the original intent of the last time it was presented.
Okay, all right. 2 additional questions, and this is a shot in the dark. It's a big shot in the dark that I don't know if it's going to go over, but I'm trying anyway. In the city of Atlanta, they just passed a small business relief fund for construction, businesses who have been impacted by construction. And that is it's a grant setup program, no different than what the city of Augusta did during COVID, where small businesses were able to apply for resources there. I don't expect you to give an answer, but I'm just putting this out for general information and general knowledge that while this project is going on, and this is somewhat related to the parking issue, but while this project is going on, we've been hearing a lot of concerns from owners about communication and about folks not having access to their storefronts and things of that nature, and they are losing revenue. I want us to look at what that could look like. I know we're not sitting on dollars just coming out of a well, right? But if there are any non-restricted funds that we could tap into that could provide some type of relief to small business owners, I would like for us to have some type of update to this body before this plan is passed, just so that we can get an idea what that could potentially look like. And then my last question is timeline on this. The project has started and it is in motion. What is the timeline that you're expecting us to have a decision made on this that aligns with the project?
The construction is in progress, and it will be moving as we complete. So, we're already, the contractor already transitioned from San Sebastian to 13th Street, and they're already working on it. They opened up 1 lane from 15th to San Sebastian. So they just opened it up. We're working on the signage and all that. So construction is already in progress in the James Brown Linear Park, which is the block of 8 and 9. So, it is in progress. Really, the timeline, the clock already started. We got to, keep moving on this because if we don't, not only delay that, but they're going to be, contractor they can come back and ask for delaying and all that.
I guess my question is, right now there isn't a block being worked on that impacts parking directly. So at what point are we going to be facing a block that's going to be impacting parking?
So they are the ones that it's around the 12 to 18 months they have to finish that one. Yeah.
Okay.
But see, that's a different discussion. We need to really look at accelerating on that schedule, and that will, of course, we have to add more funds to accelerate.
Are we at a point to talk about the 24-hour shift, the day, well, not 24, but the day and night shift, or is that a different conversation?
Yeah, we can come back at the next time. I'm in a constant discussion with the contractors, and actually have another call set up with them tomorrow for me to get very clear understanding of this second shift, which I got good understanding right now compared to what it has. So it's going to be standalone. We can call it notice to proceed with its own constraints. It's not going to be tied to the original. So if they don't meet those schedules, it will have its own damages and penalties. So
Sure.
it's not tied, it will not be tied to the actual schedule.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you all for trying to accommodate the concerns that we've heard, and you know, I hope that we'll get to a good place on this one, because our business owners are expecting us to help them out as much as we can. And I think the biggest takeaway here in my mind is just that our parking isn't up to standard and it isn't up to code, and so because of that, we're facing some hardship here. But I hope that we'll be able to get to some general consensus soon so that we can move forward with these concepts. But thank you for your work.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan Johnson. We got Commissioner Don Clark on the queue now.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Dr. Malik, John, appreciate you both. John, this is going to be your parting gift that keeps on giving for sure. But listen, so I know we got a PR group coming in. I know next steps is for you all to create some additional communication with the community as well, right?
Yes, sir. So that was on the last night. So we're already working behind the scene to get this group. So right now we're looking at the September 26th. We already secured the Beasley home. And
You said September 26th?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
On that, and that will be our more or less kickoff on that, and that forum will take over everything. Of course, we're going to give them schedule. They'll be part of our biweekly construction progress meeting, so they can get that update and all. So, and then the next meeting we're going to have, we will get feedback from stakeholder businesses, so we can modify our plan if we needed to. But that's the commitment engineering has, and GDOT, they're always a good partner. They step up, and they actually covering the cost of that effort 100%. Yeah, so they will increase the construction funds of this project to offset the cost on that. But yes, sir, yeah, so we struggle on that, there's no doubt. We tried different things, it didn't work, and with all your input and chambers and everybody, that was the best path that we need to get PR forum on board. That's what they do. And I think they already been communicating with the media and all this, because they came sending us some clips.
Well, let me make sure I was clear. So you said September 26th. Is that your next meeting, or is that when you're meeting next with the PR
that's
firm?
going to be, we're going to, stop already working on, so we're going to be reaching out to all the stakeholder businesses this week, informing them all that. Yeah, so I'm calling it kickoff, but that's what we're going to lay out our plan, and also we're going to give them some updates on this stuff too, how we're going to communicate.
Yeah.
The goal is to have, at least for now, once a month, in-person meeting with stakeholders, whoever can attend it, and then definitely bi-weekly updates. Goal is weekly, but if you see if it's bi-weekly, and that's some of the things we're going to be probably discussing at this upcoming meeting. Yeah, and any other feedback we get back, we'll modify the plan.
Okay, so September 26th, what's the time and location?
It's here at the first floor of the Beasley home. Let's see if we can pull out the draft I was getting. I think it's 5:30 to 5:30 to 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the Beasley room?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Open to the public?
Yeah, that's what
asking.
exactly. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Last thing too, so I know this is an update. I know, and it's great that we're hearing everyone's openness and understanding for managed parking. I know you all did a lot of work previously, like you said, previous commission. So if we can start dusting that off and get ready to bring before the body, so that we can really kind of start working towards this, because this will be a supplement to what you all are already doing if we choose to go that direction, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So actually, I have a copy of the final version. It was a parking plan, and they were projecting that's 2-year-old, like 1.2 million revenue, but there was some cost, so there was,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys can start looking at that again, I'd like to see if we can find a way to be similar to what Commissioner Johnson was saying, for the city to be able to generate additional revenue from it, bringing another company in to generate the revenue, and we just kind of lose out on that. Doesn't seem like a benefit for us. If we're going to do it, let's see if that's something we can add to operations. So, but I'd love to work with you guys on that. Looking forward to hearing more about it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, as the next step, if commission desire, engineering can put it at the agenda what was done in the past to kind of update all that, because that time not only the plan, we actually look at the ordinance changes, and also all three documents were really went through the legal review. But we can just receive as a updated information where we were, and that will help us. So if any changes, we need to make the plan, which we already work out.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I address the administrator?
You may.
Hey, Madam Administrator, please, if you all can engage with this piece of it, just trying to make sure that we can, I mean, they've had a plan, I think it's like, what, 2 years, maybe older?
2019, December 2019.
Yeah, so got some work to do to really kind of revitalize to see if it's even something still relevant. I know they spent some time and money getting a firm to generate a plan on this, but let's see what we can do to really kind of benefit us for sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. We got Catherine Smith Rice in the queue now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I won't keep you long, and this is questions that I continue to get from some business owners that I've got to ask, and I know I appreciate you both being here to do this, and John, I'm gonna miss you. After 4.5, 5 years, it's been a nice ride. I appreciate it. But speaking of rides, I keep getting questions about why is it that we have to have this bike lane, because other cities such as Columbus, Macon, Savannah, Aiken, they don't have them. Why do we need them? And also, wouldn't it open up 10 more feet of parking if we didn't have these bike lanes? I mean, I'm just wondering why we need bike lanes downtown when a lot of these business owners, I don't know, I just don't know. I feel like that we might have more parking if we did not have these bike lanes. And that's going to be a question that's going to be brought up if we have this open meeting coming up for everyone. Go ahead.
So simply, it's part of the complete street requirement that GDOT has. This particular corridor, Broad Street, is wide enough to accommodate all of the things that are in that complete street package. There is a process early on that we could have requested, things to be added or removed, but we're well past that. And also, when Cooper Carey, who originally came in and did all the public information and talked to all the stakeholders and held public meetings, that particular element was something that was very important to the people that attended those meetings. It was something they wanted. It wasn't until much, much later, when we're under construction, that it came back and it became an issue. So just simply put, it's what they want done, the state wants done with their money, and it's part of the Complete Streets process. And let me also say, I know a lot of people say, let's take out the bike lane and then you can fit in angle parking on the outside, and the math doesn't work. A bike lane is, even though it's part of the sidewalk, is roughly 5 feet wide. You have a 1-foot bumper. So if you take out, and I'll try to get through this pretty quick and without too many numbers, but an average parallel parking space is 8 feet wide, okay? A bike lane is 5 feet wide, that's 13 feet. You have a 1-foot bumper, that's 14 feet. The depth of an angled parking space is 18 to 20 feet. So that means you would have to take 4 to 5 to 6 feet of what is going to be sidewalk for people, and you'd have to take that away. And not only do you take it away from the people, but all the utilities that are there, the street lights, the traffic signals, all the underground stuff, the water, the gas, drainage, all that stuff that you don't even see would have to be redone. And so I did mention earlier that I went down to Atlanta. I met with our consultant. I spent an entire day with him. We tried our best to lay it out in a way that would have a minimal impact. It was difficult because no matter what they did, it would have a huge impact, both in money, in a monetary way, and in a time way. And what I mean by that is if you start narrowing the sidewalk where the people are supposed to be, well, all those streetlights that are right there that are 2 feet from the edge of the road have to be moved. All the traffic signal poles that have a foundation that's deeper than I am tall have to be moved. And so you're talking a huge expense, a lot of time. And so those are the reasons why it should be there and it needs to stay.
Okay. And I appreciate that. And I've got one other thing. I feel like there are people in this city that are discouraged. They're worried about this plan. You got business owners, but then you got some that are saying too, it's going to be a great plan when it's done. And we've got to be positive about this and get it out there for the citizens so that they are positive too. And that also we have a timeline, because we've been talking about, for years that we're going to be doing downtown. So a timeline to give these people also some kind of hard copy or something to give the citizens so that they have a broad knowledge of what this is going to be, because a lot of them don't, and they're curious. And so is there any way we can get some kind of copy out there to put so that everybody is informed and not concerned about how their downtown is going to look? Because right now they're all worried, about this tree landscaping and the devastation of losing trees. We've got to be able to sell it and make it positive for the citizens of this town.
So I think the meeting that's going to happen next week, I think a lot of that will be addressed at that meeting. Some of the exhibits that I've shown in these slides, we will have, bigger so you can actually look at them and see it in more detail. So I think a lot of that'll be available at that meeting. And then that's why we hired a PR firm.
Okay. Thank you both so much. I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. We got follow-up from Commissioner Jordan Johnson. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. Two questions. The first one, one's a question, one's a statement. I'm going to start with the statement first. The meeting that's being proposed on a Friday night between 5 and 7 or 8 or whatever for downtown businesses it won't benefit them. A lot of them are serving guests at that time. And so if you want any restaurant owners to come, that may not be a good time to come to have this meeting. So just from being someone who frequently eats downtown, Mondays and Tuesdays are really good nights for business owners in downtown Augusta, so I would suggest a Monday. Would y'all agree? Nod out of a head? Okay, all right. So maybe Monday night would be more helpful. And then lastly, I've received the questions. Folks are watching online, and they want to know if there's a one lane being open through each block. So a lot of folks have had concerns about being blocked in during the construction project. So I know we were told that there would be one lane open at all times, and I know on the Sebastian side that wasn't the case. And so can we address that before we move on to?
So I think there was a misunderstanding. Thank you for bringing that up. We never said between 15th and St. Sebastian and 13th that we would leave one lane open at all times. We've never said that.
Okay.
Because that part of the project is a full depth section. In other words, they got to dig down into the ground, get to the very bottom of the road and build it all the way back up. We're not just taking off the top and putting a new top on it. We have to dig it down and build it all the way back up. That's what necessitates those block closures. We have said, and you are correct, that during the downtown construction from 13th to 5th, there will be one lane in each block open at all times, except for rare exceptions where they may have to close it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, while they run across, run something across. So I'm glad that you asked that and we were able to clarify it. But those two blocks at the end that we're currently working on, because of the type of construction, that's why we had to close those blocks completely. But once we get to 13th and we start working our way through downtown, one lane will be open in each direction at all times.
Okay. And Mayor Pro Tem, I'm just going to make just a statement that I'm going to get out of the queue. I think that we're all at a point right now to where we want the same thing. We want to be able to make decisions that don't impact our business community. This government wants to be able to make a decision to be able to move the project along. And I think that this plan gets us to a point to where we can be somewhat comfortable understanding that if we had to come back to the table, that it is amendable to a degree. And so being the downtown commissioner, if this, I'm going to make a motion to approve it, and if I get the daggers, I would take those. But what I will say is that the work is being done in downtown Augusta right now, and we all have headaches because of it. And whatever moves forward from this meeting, whether that be communication or parking or anything else, we just want to be able to make sure that everything that happens, that the downtown business owners and residents are taken into consideration, because folks are having to sleep downtown and they're making their living downtown. And so I know that you know that, but we want to continue to reiterate that these decisions have to be made with them in mind, because without them, then these plans wouldn't be necessary. They wouldn't be relevant. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve this, and just understand that we're going to continue to have more community meetings as we go forward.
Second.
Commissioner, the agenda item just says follow update on the TIA funded project, Broad Street project. I don't know if it needs a motion.
Well, does this have to be approved by the commission?
It's really the update, because the project already been approved by the commission and all that. We're bringing back what we were able to do, all that, and we're able to address majority of the concern. May not be 100%, but we came very close to that. So, it's just the information and address. Really, the plan and concept already be presented and approved by the commission. So
All right.
I don't think the formal approval really is warranted.
Okay, well, you saved me from taking those daggers, but I do have a recommendation.
No, there was no dagger.
Well, it will be some. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm looking at some folks. No, I do have a recommendation though. With the plan, there was a recommendation for coming off of Monument to be one way. Would that need commission approval to approve that, if that's what we decided to do, to add the additional?
Where's Monument?
Yeah, I think that's probably that's a good point. Yeah.
So I don't know if we need approval for that.
Would that need approval?
But we already have it designed, it's ready to go. So if we pull the trigger, so to speak, that can be implemented into the plans.
Okay, all right. Well,
All right.
I'll
You finished,
I'll yield the
Commissioner
floor.
Johnson?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, let me follow up. I've been waiting. I know that we got some business owners in here too from downtown that would like to speak. As far as the Fifth Street, I know on one of your plans, what I love about this right now, the number of parking stalls on 12th Street, you was able to accomplish and find 45 plus 30 more, 35 by angle parking. Right there on Fifth Street, can we do the same thing, acquire more parking spaces there, Mr. John?
On Fifth Street near Broad, or on
Yes.
Broad Street near, I'm sorry?
From Ellis to Reynolds, right there in front of the museum, where it parallels with the railroad track.
So I understand what you're asking, and we can take a look at that.
Would you be kind enough to do that?
Our thought process, I'll just real quick, our thought process was obviously on the restaurant side, we wanted to maximize the number of parking spaces as much as we could. But on the museum side, our initial impression was that it would be beneficial to keep more green space over there because of the museum and enhance the
Yeah, they
area.
got the big, within the bricked-in fence area. I don't think by putting more parking spaces will affect them at all. Also,
we wanted to beautify it more, I guess is probably what I
right.
should have said.
Also, 5 weeks ago, the body, Ms. Bonner could probably answer this, we had on the motion on the floor with the $13 million. I don't know if the body, I wasn't here that day, if the body deleted it, but apparently you had money still in the coffers, and you had a slide up at 5th and Broad Street where you could obtain 4 to 5 more parking spaces. can we utilize, and actually it was $5 million because $8 million would have been used from other funding source in the future. So you had $5 million. Can we use some of that money to acquire more parking spaces?
So, acquiring a parcel or just to do the modification what John has presented?
What John had presented
Yeah,
today.
so if the body is okay, we will absorb that cost within the project.
Okay.
With some modifications to the work, and hopefully it's not gonna be a whole lot on that with that changes. So yeah, if that's what John is asking, and Commissioner asked the approval of that, because it's gonna become one way, because they won't be able to make a left from Green. So.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Malik. Thank you, John. I'd have Brad Ushery, Mr. Brad, if you'd like to come up and speak. State your name and address for the record, please.
Brad Ushery, 1112 Council Drive, Augusta, Georgia, 30909. First of all, I just want to thank Mr. Ushery and Dr. Malik for going back and revisiting this for us as downtown business owners. And I also want to thank the commission for really addressing this and looking at it from a business perspective, because a lot of us are scared because of this project, to be honest. We know it's going to have growing pains, and we're prepared for that part. But that's why we need the communication. We need, to Catherine's point, we need renderings up on the blocks to show what it's going to look like, so the Augustans that do come eat and come downtown know, wow, look at this. What is this going to look like? So with that said, my son and I, we just signed a note for $2 million to open a restaurant on a 1200 block. And so our contractor said, we're going to slow down to that block's finished because we're scared to get you ready. So with that said, so it's real money and it's real business. So it's real fear. Luigi's, that's Sean White with 5 or 6 restaurants downtown. But we love Augusta. We love being downtown. And believe me, nobody supports downtown like we do. Whether it's, it's I call it the Caddy program. I know it's called the ACE program now, the things to really enhance downtown. But excuse me, one quick, I know I only have 5 minutes, but I made some notes as we were talking, and they may be a little bit random. I think the parking management plan is very necessary. I think we do have some issues where people are parking too long, and those people can park in the parking decks. Let's just put them somewhere else. We don't want to run them off, but let's not let them take our prime places. So you guys are smart. You can figure that out. I think that's very important. And I think if we do create some revenues, which I've seen some cities that do it, and it doesn't take equipment anymore. All it takes is a text and your tag number, and I'm smart enough to do it. So it can be done without equipment. And can we dedicate that money, the revenues that eventually come in, can we dedicate that to downtown to maintain all these flower boxes I'm hearing about? We have a history of not maintaining things.
That's true.
So let's dedicate a pot of money that goes to maintenance of the downtown that's going to be so pretty when we're finished. The 12th Ellis, Reynolds Street, Monument Street suggestions to me are brilliant. I think that's something that's nothing but paint. We could do that now before the project gets going good, and that gives some people some alternative parking. Just my opinion, and I do think that's mostly paint for now. We may need to enhance it once the project's done, but if I was king of the world, I'd say y'all try to get that approved. Communication is key for us as business owners. We need to know if something's going to be shut down, not the day of or an hour before. And I think the PR firm you guys are hiring will really be helpful with that. So we appreciate that. And all our numbers now. So, and I appreciate Mr. Johnson suggesting our meeting not be on a Friday night. I don't think any of us could have made that meeting. Landscape maintenance budgets, I mentioned. I don't want to beat the bike path up too much, but I travel a good bit. Asheville, Charleston. They have the same situation with mobility, what we call mobility or green, and they use a lot of stencils on the road in the right lane because bikes move just as fast as cars downtown. typically. But again, don't want to beat that up. And we realize the ADA part that's a must. We want that too. So, but anyway, thank y'all so much, and I appreciate your time and your dedication with this, y'all's commitment to us as downtown businesses, and you guys for helping us out. And I think we're gonna get this. And at the end of the day, it's gonna be a good project.
Yeah.
So we got to make the growing pains as minimal as possible.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you want to just receive this information with no? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, Madam Clerk, let's go on to our next one. 26.
Okay. Item 26, a motion to approve construction contract with Chaplin and Sons Clearing and Demolition, Inc. to install emergency temporary structural shoring at Highland Avenue Water Treatment Plant, East Filter Building, costing $59,765.
Director Bynes, you have the floor, sir.
Certainly. This is the structural shoring where we had some corrosion on the structural beams in the building. Brought it to the commission floor to let y'all know it was occurring about 6 weeks ago. Had a contractor come in and install shoring that will be up through the duration of the reconstruction of the building as needed. The design plans are still under review for the scope that'll be brought to y'all. So this is just a temporary structural measure to make sure the building is safe.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Garrett, then Commissioner Clark after that. Commissioner Clark.
I did. Hey, so Wes, Director Bynes, thank you for coming to clarify. So the second phase of this, just kind of clarify that piece, because I know that's coming before us next as well, right?
Certainly. So the second phase will be the engineering design plan that's got to come forward, which is replacing the roof panels. I forget the particular manufacturer. They made these lightweight concrete roof panels in the 60s and 50s. That's what these are. They all tend to fail the same way, and these are failing just from life, longevity, and loads. They start to spall and crack, and they're not repairable because they're thin, and so they need to be replaced. And so this will be next will be the engineering design phase for the replacement. Also some brick pointing work, some structural tiebacks on the brick that's there, and then the construction contract for it.
Okay, when are you guys looking to have that plan solidified, bid it out and all that good stuff?
So the engineering firm has submitted their preliminary proposal, which I'm going back and negotiating some of the costs with them right now. I expect that to have that to you in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then the design will probably take through the end of the year and then go to construction. I would not anticipate the project starting before Masters.
Okay. All right. Motion to approve.
All right, any other questions? We got a motion and a second. Let's vote by the usual sign.
It's unanimous.
All right, Madam Clerk, do we have anything else? This is amazing, ladies and gentlemen.
The
Thank
addendum,
y'all.
yes, we do. Our learned attorney.
Oh, him?
Item number 1 on our addendum agenda.
Shoot. All right.
Oh, he's been sitting back there.
I'll try to be quick.
Him.
Gee, thanks.
All right, name and address, please, for the record.
Courtney Rogers, Davenport & Company, Senior Vice President as your financial advisor. I'll let Tim maybe pull up the presentation here.
So if it's okay, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, just wanted to give everybody an update on what Courtney is going to be presenting to us today. We just wanted to give you an update on our financial health as we stand today after we've made some respective decisions for 2025 and going into 2026. So we've asked him why he was here today for an earlier item to present us with an update on the health of Augusta at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem. I get it right in a second. Commissioners, great to see you all again. I was here a couple of weeks ago when you all had some tough decisions to make. You were trying to figure out what to do with the military as well as some potential shortfalls coming up in 2005. And as we talked about it, we thought it might be a good idea just to talk about what the ramifications might be as it pertains to the credit rating, and we got to thinking about some of the other things to take into consideration as you start to get really into your budget process coming up. So we're going to present some financial results kind of going back in time, looking back at fund balance, assessed value growth, millage rates. We've got some comparisons in here with some of the other consolidated governments around the state as well as other large cities. We may not have all the answers to any questions you have today, and if you do, some of these data items might prompt some further thoughts that you might have, and we're happy to dig further to see if we can come up with answers if we don't know them today. The first slide I want to go through is historical general fund results, and typically we might go back 5 years. We thought it might be good to go back a little bit deeper just to see kind of what's been going on. And the big picture that what we came out of this was we looked at total revenues, total expenditures. You know, year over year, you've done a great job of having some revenues over expenditures up until, I'll say, post-COVID, where things got a little bit thinner. But before that, if you look at that yellow line, the tan line, you were adding anywhere from $4 to $5 up to $8 million a year. That falls into either fund balance, you're able to spend it on other projects, capital one-time things like that. But in 21, 22, and 23, you can see it got really thin. Now, the other thing we found interesting is that when you look at the big picture, revenues grew about 28% over this time, but expenditures grew 33%. So expenditures were growing faster than your revenues, which is one of the reasons why when you look at 2023, things were very, very tight. Part of that, if you look back at the expenditure side, the biggest part of the basically $46 million of increase over that time, half of it was basically, almost half of it was public safety, which is not a real surprise, is where it went. The other thing I'll point out too on that page is that the last 3 years you also used, it's kind of buried in the transfers in, ARPA money to balance the budget of the last couple of years. So part of those increases in expenditures, while they didn't show up on the revenues up top, it came in as a transfer in, was ARPA money that helped balance the budget. And that's part of why it made it as difficult as you probably had going through your 24 budget, which we don't have those results yet, so they're not here. And that'll probably also weigh on you as you start going into next year's budget. So just a couple of comparisons. We wanted to look at some of these other larger places. You've got Columbia County and Sandy Springs, AAA cities. You've got, or county and city, larger places. Then we've got some of the consolidateds like Athens Clark. You've got Savannah, and you've got Columbus Muskogee as well as Macon-Bibb. And this chart basically shows general fund revenues on a per capita basis. Columbia County being a little bit smaller, not a real surprise there. You're right there below the peer median, though, when you kind of look at some of those larger places. Then when you look on the expenditure side, it's very similar. The one thing that I noted when I was comparing the two is that most everyone, and again, it's because of the last year in our comparison here, you were right on top of revenues and expenditures, but your general fund revenues per capita were right on top of the general fund expenditures, where most everybody else had revenues in excess of their expenditures on a per capita basis. When you look at the historical tax digest, a couple things that jumped out at us. Of course, you had double-digit increases in 22 and 23. Then it slowed since then. I think part of that probably has to do with the housing, mortgage rates going up, houses not going up as much. The overall tax digest has grown 67% during this time. Residential growth has leaded commercial 94% to 74%. So when you look at the line item of residential growth, it's grown 94% from 2017 to 2015, whereas commercial has only grown 74%. Then we decided to look at historic millage rates. Let's go back and the chart there shows you urban district in green, suburban district in light green, and then the school district. And you can see it was fairly flat in the first several years there, and then over the last several, as again, you've had the double-digit increases in 23 and 24, you were able to lower the millage rate, bring it down. The school district, however, brought it down up till 23, but then they raised it again in 24 and 25. I suspect don't know this for sure. I suspect that had to do with some of the inflationary pressures they saw, probably on their teacher side. Then we're coming back again to kind of that comparison, again, using, and this goes from really largest digest to smallest digest from left to right on the charts. This shows residential digest versus commercial digest versus what they term as other. And what you'll see here, we're basically right there in the middle of the pack. Again, this is total digest basis. But roughly 53% of your digest is residential, commercial at 35%. What we saw comparing the others is outside of Sandy Springs and Columbia County, everyone else is in that, I'll call it 50% give or take range when it came to residential side. And then on the other side, you're very similarly in that 35%. Most everyone is in that 35% commercial digest. Sandy Springs a little bit on the higher side. Interestingly, Columbia County a little bit on the lower side. Then when we look at that millage rate peer comparison, again, this is sorted by assessed value. This is something we started doing for some of our other clients. We thought it might be interesting to see. You folks will say, oh, your digest or your tax rate is lower than my tax digest when you're comparing neighbors. Well, here's a good example. If you look at Columbia County's millage rate at 4.57 versus yours at 6.47, this is going back to 2024. But you look at their value of a mill is actually higher than yours, just because of the value their digest is higher at 8.8 billion versus your 8.1 in that year, and they have a lower population, so they don't need as big a budget maybe to support the same services. You've got a bigger population, probably takes a little bit more to serve that population, so you have to have a few more mills, obviously, to produce $52 million than they do to produce 40. So that's just an example for those two. A couple of things that stood out to me, I thought it was interesting that Savannah had such a large budget. I don't know exactly why their budget is so much larger when they can actually, their value of the mills is so much higher. Plus, I'm sure they get a lot more sales tax with all the hotel, motel, and things like that. But that could be a whole nother analysis. But thought this might be helpful, at least to, as you're thinking about things going into budget, might give you some pause for thought. Then when you go back and look at the 10-year millage change, we were trying to kind of see maybe anything that popped out there. And what I noticed going through this was the 2015 to 2020 range, there wasn't a lot of change. That's in the lighter green, kind of in the center of the page. Your digest went up 54%. You rolled back the mills 2.5. But when you look over and that was the last 5 years. When you go back to 2015 to 2020, you only rolled it back 0.75. And that, of course, that was because the last 5 years you had the larger assessed value growth, right? So you're able to roll it back more. And that's kind of what you see with everyone, except for Sandy Springs. They were the only ones that basically they have held their tax rate the same. I'm pretty sure they're capped, so they can't really go higher. And so they didn't want to give any of that up. But when you look at the others, outside of Macon Bibb, you rolled it back more than anyone else. You had a 72% tax digest growth from looking back over 10 years versus some of the others. The other thing we thought might be interesting to see is the value of a home. The median house home here is roughly $200,000. And so, again, using that number and comparing to if that same home was in some of the other comparison localities, you'll see that you over that period of 2024, I should say, for 2024, the property tax paid $485 for that home at your millage rate was 0.24% of the value of the home. I was trying to equate it to the value of the home. The only two that were lower were Sandy Springs and Columbia County. Then you look at Savannah at 0.48, Columbus at 0.51, and then Athens, Clarke, and Macon Bibb were just slightly higher than you at 0.34, 0.36. Just kind of gives you a sense. The other thing I thought was interesting, if you look back at during that time, residential assessed values for you grew at 94%. If you kind of roll it back to 2015, that house would, assuming that it grew at that same 94%, would be roughly $100,000 value in 2015. So back then it would have paid about $354 in taxes. And that means their tax bill rose $131 during this roughly 10-year period here. while their home went up 94%, that tax bill was only up 37%. The other side we want to look at on the commercial side is we're kind of looking at abatements. On the left-hand side is using the audit from 2023, the numbers that were in that audit. Your total taxes abated in 2023 was $8.7 million. So that's basically dollars that were given back that were not in your budget. On the upper right corner, you'll see we took the top 10, since we couldn't publicly really talk about the different companies, what they're paying taxes. We just looked at totals. And so when you look at that top 10 total, the assessed value was $834 million for the top 10. Of that, roughly 2/3 of it was exempt. And that's $3.3 million based on the millage in that year that could have been added to the fund balance. So roughly to the budget, 2/3 basically was exempted and not taxed. So coming kind of full circle, obviously what I heard the other day was that we're going to probably need to use fund balance at the end of the year to take care of a couple of shortfalls that's happened in 2025. And so just reminding everyone that we do need fund balance to pay the bills. We get paid once a year, so to speak, when revenues come in through the tax bills for most of our revenues. And we obviously need those funds not only to pay month-to-month bills, but also for natural disasters, which unfortunately you've had several of since I've been associated with you, between the ice storm, now hurricane, other things that could happen. FEMA obviously doesn't show up with a checkbook, as I say. They show up and say, we're here to help, but we'll pay you later. So that's going to be important to keep in mind as you get into your budget. Unassigned fund balance, you've done a great job of the last 10 years coming from that ice storm back in 2014, building it up over time. You actually increased the policy minimums back in 22, 23, and we're above the lower end of that policy and still working toward the top end of that policy. They're at roughly 30% as of 2023. Obviously, we're still waiting on 24 results to see where we are. When you do that comparison, how do you look versus the others? That light green bar is where your 30% is. You can see you're kind of right in the middle of the pack. You've got a couple that are below you. Columbus is right there with you, and so not in bad shape. But obviously, if you take a hit this year, then things are going to probably roll back. One thing just to remind you is your policy actually includes a provision for if you do go below your policy, to put a minimum $1 million a year in the budget to start building it back up. And that's a policy that you all put in place several years ago. And then finally, just real quick, a couple of observations. This is the report that Moody's gave us last year in 2024 when we were doing the Coliseum bonds. Just highlighted at the bottom there that one thing that could lead to a downgrade is operating deficits or one-time uses of reserves that could result in material decline in available fund balance ratio. So they've kind of given us that, hey, keep an eye on it. They also talked about a credit strength was our strong reserve level. So we've started from a position of strength. We just need to be mindful of not getting any weaker if we can do so. And then S&P similarly, on the downside scenario, said they could lower the rating if finances were to deteriorate, leading to sustained and significant reserve decreases, or if local economic factors were to weaken materially. So just kind of wrapping up, obviously you've done a great job over the years of building that fund balance back up. Thank goodness it was there and built back up when this storm did happen. Just want to be mindful of as you go forward in the next several years, getting that fund balance back up. Hopefully, we don't have anything further to come our way as far as a natural disaster goes, but that would definitely put a further stress on things. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Madam Administrator, would you like to add any value to this conversation, or?
Yes, sir. The only thing is, again, I want to remind you, we realize we have a lot of tough decisions, and those are two words that I say quite often. And you probably heard Courtney say the same thing, because he realized there were some tough decisions to be made. I appreciate Davenport being our financial advisor and, staying the last time he came in to have some discussion about where we seriously are in Augusta. And volunteering to work with us on bringing our financial health information forward to the governing body, so you actually see where we stand, how we can jeopardize our rating, and how various things actually move into other areas as well when we don't make those tough decisions that we are probably going to make. The goal is to build that fund balance back up. And the goal is we're going to have to make some real tough decisions as it relates to some of the funds that we want to provide, some of the things that we want to do, some of the operations that we want to continue. I mean, it's really going to be some tough decisions. When he presented that to me and we start having those discussions, I said the governing body definitely needs to know this. This is where we currently stand. So when we get really deep into the respective continuation of discussions on the 2026 budget, we'll be bringing you some things that you will have to deliberate on. That's all.
Thank you, Madam Administrator.
Thank you.
We got Jordan Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Just a question. I see TAD 2, 3, and 4. Which TADs represent what TADs are which? And that's a Director Schreier question. Is TAD 2 downtown?
No, sir. TAD 2 is the Village at Riverwatch.
Okay, TAD 3?
TAD 3 is the airport's TAD, and TAD 4 is the downtown TAD.
Okay, all right. And then, okay. All right, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
All right. Receive this as information with no objection. Madam Clerk, what time is it? All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank everybody.